I am here with the one, the only, Mr. Reuben Vincent.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
All is well, man. How you doing?
Good. One of my first questions I have for you is, what I love asking artists is what their old, like how they get their names and what their old names are. You go by your real name. Did you ever have a dumb rap name you went by back in the day?
So it's funny. I was just telling this story to my girl before we got here. So I'm gonna tell you the first name I ever had, which was Lil Ben, which was
Ben,
like
B-I-N?
B-E-N.
B-E-N.
Like Reuben.
Lil Ben? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Lil
so
Ben, okay.
when I was in preschool, I was always like fascinated by rap. So before I even wrote my first rap, when I was in preschool, you know how like you're supposed to write your name on worksheets?
Yeah.
I never would put my real name, and I always would turn it in like Lil Ben because I was like a big Bow Wow fan. And I remember one day my teacher was like, "What? Who is turning in their papers with Lil Ben on it?" And I was like, me.
So proud of yourself.
Yeah, they was like, "No, don't do that. Don't do that." So it was that at first, and then it was Young Reuben, and it was Big Ben, like the London. It was Big Ben, and then after that, it was my middle name, which is Esau from the Bible, but I put a $sign because Joey Badass was like one of my favorite rappers at one point. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna put a $sign in my name. Like, it's gonna be so cool. And then when I met Ninth, he was the one who was like, yo, why don't you use your real name? Like, your name has a ring to it.
It
like,
does.
He was like, Kendrick Lamar uses his real name. Like, he named a few people who use their real name, like Kanye West. And he was like, just use your real name, bro. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So then the rest is history.
Good advice. That's good advice from the legend, which is a good thing, I guess, to start with because I know you've told the story a million times, but you met him when you were 13, I think you said.
Yeah.
And it was because some random fan tweeted at him like, yo, check this dude out.
Yeah.
So, and then he kind of stayed a mentor to you, like from that moment you first met him, like you guys always stayed in contact.
Yep.
So what was that first meeting like? And then what was your relationship like when you were, because you're a kid then, you were making music, but you were a kid.
Yes.
What was that relationship like when you first, got to know each other?
So when we first met, it was kind of like, I didn't realize what was happening until we were like pulling up to his studio. Like, we had been driving for 2 hours, me and my mom, and I was still like, yo, I'm meeting Ninth Wonder, but it didn't really sink in.
Did you know who he was, like, before?
Yeah, I definitely knew who he was. And I was already inspired by who Ninth was because of what he did. But I don't think it sunk in until we were pulling into his studio, and I was like, whoa, I'm meeting Ninth Wonder right now. And then, like, he walked out, and I'm, like, super short, and he's, like, super tall, and he has, like, this deep voice, like, what's going on, man? It's Ninth Wonder. And I'm just like, like, you know what I mean? So then we spent that weekend there. I did like 9 songs in 3 days, and then I ain't gonna lie, for the first few years that I knew Ninth, I was the annoying little kid that had his number and would just blow his phone up.
Oh, so you were like a kid just texting him? Like-
yeah, like not even realizing like, hey, this is a grown man. He has an obligation. He has kids of his own. He's a producer, but then he's also teaching. He has a lot going on, and I'm just texting him like, yo, man, have you heard this MF Doom album before? I just found this MF Doom album. What do you think? Like, just randomly, like, any hip-hop album that I would come across that maybe was, like, from his time, I would text him like, yo, I just found Nas's Illmatic. Like, yo, do you want, like, yo, tell me where you were. And he's just, like, sometimes he wouldn't text back. Sometimes he would entertain it. But I was like super annoying because I'm like, yo, I have Ninth Wonder's number. And I used to just text him like random stuff. And I just remember one time too, like I started learning how to use Photoshop. And I remember I Photoshopped, there's this picture of like Nas, Big L, and like another dude from Harlem like standing on the street. And I Photoshopped my face. And I was like, look, like just random stuff. And he's not even texting
Probably
me back.
Hated it.
Yeah, he's like,
kid, leave me alone.
Yeah, he's like this guy. You know what I mean? But for the first few years, I used to annoy him. I used to beg to come up to his studio. And then when I got like a little bit, like once I started going through puberty, I was like, okay, like you're doing a little too much. You know what I mean? And he just after that, he got super like, we started to get a little bit closer. And I used to like, just pull up to the studio and, he would tell me like, hey, study this album, or like, hey, space your words out a little bit, or hey, do this or do this or do this. And, it helped me just be a better songwriter. You know what I mean? And then as I started coming around more, it went from producer artist mentorship to like big brother, little brother mentorship, I
mean, that's like such a blessing as someone who wants to be like in hip hop, like be an artist, be an MC, and you have like one of the goats.
Yeah.
And you have his number, and when you're just starting out as a kid is insane. Like,
yeah, man, I was abusing. I have, so if I don't have my old phone, but I still have some of our early Twitter ones, and I could show you like just texts of me blowing him up, him not texting back, him being busy, and I'm just like, and I used to be like, yo, he's not texting me back. Like,
yeah, getting butthurt about it.
Yeah, exactly.
What's his deal?
Yeah,
that's funny. But he must have saw a lot of talent in you at such a young age to tolerate all the texts he was getting.
Yeah, looking back, I'm like, man, I understand. Like now, like there's grown men that do that sometimes now in my DMs, like just blowing up your DMs and stuff like that. So I'm like, I guess he kind of gave me grace because I was like a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, he knows you're a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then he's been a professor that entire time, right?
Yeah.
So he teaches like a hip hop history class, right?
Yeah, he teaches a hip hop history class. He also teaches a beat production class, and he teaches a class on like black films.
I would have killed to be in a class like that in college, bro. I was taking the dumbest classes.
bro, I'm telling you, I went to one of his classes at Duke this year, and I've been to like a few of his classes, but for some reason this time I was like, whoa. Like, imagine if I had a whole semester.
Crazy, dude.
You know what I mean? So,
and there's probably kids in that class like totally taking it for granted. Like,
I'm like, yo, like, some of them probably don't even know what's going on. They're just like, all right, whatever. I'm just taking a random class to get another credit.
Right.
It's hip hop history, should be easy, but they're not even knowing who they're standing in front of each day. But I also do have stories of like him like telling me like he's been in class and like Kendrick is texting him in the middle of class, and like he's able to do those little light flexes and stuff. Like the earlier this year, he was like, yeah, I was in class and Corday called me. He's like, I answered the phone in front of my students just to show them that I'm Ninth Wonder and stuff like that.
just so they know.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you ever get the vibe with him that he like can't turn professor mode off? Is he sometimes like giving you lectures every once in a while, or can he turn it off?
He definitely can turn it off, but I definitely get Professor Knife sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he calls himself, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
He definitely gets in professor mode sometimes. Like, because I be around him a lot, I get Patrick, which is just his regular name, which is just like, yo, I want to watch sports and eat wings and just chill and make jokes and drink juice from Publix and stuff like that at the studio. Then I get Professor and Producer Knife in one, and then we even go into like hip hop lectures. Like the other day we was in the studio and we're just talking about who are some of the best MCs, and he was breaking down why some people are like some of the best rappers and why like this person like is like above this person in his list, and he'll like go like real deep in history, like play you a song and show you lyrics. Like his knowledge is like super extensive, and also Knife has like super strong memory. Like Knife is one of those people that can be like, in August 4th, 1994, I was in such and such, and this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. Like he's a real encyclopedia, bro.
That's crazy. I do not have that skill. I forget things go in my brain and then right out. I forget shit all.
He's super. He knows every date from not even just with hip hop stuff, but stuff from his life and just like real moments that happen, like just in general. Like, oh, in January 1999, this happened in America. Like he will go that deep, you know what I mean? It's just like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah. A few things I think that's awesome, what you're kind of describing is like, one, I think it's awesome that he genuinely wants to work with you, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't have to do that stuff with you, but for him to do this album with you, that means he genuinely like, he could work with anybody. Like everyone wants to work with him. So for him to want to lock in with you, I think says a lot about what he thinks of you and the type of artist you are. And I also like how you kind of said, like, even though there's a significant age difference, you come from different eras, and granted you guys have known each other for a while, but it sounds like he, to a certain degree, treats you as an equal. Like he respects you as a peer.
For sure.
He'll impart wisdom when he feels like it's necessary and help guide you, which is what a producer should do. But he doesn't treat you like, oh, I'm just helping this kid.
Yeah.
It seems like he treats you like a peer.
Yeah, it's supernatural, man. And I think that's the blessing with us working on the project is like, it's not like, a lot of people would think because he's older and he's a legend that it would just be like, yo, you got to do this. And he's not controlling at all when it comes to like the creative process. Like he's going to make the beat, and there's like maybe like 2 or 3 songs where he might be like, yo, I think you should go in this direction. But a lot of times he gives me the open space to like figure out what I want to do creatively. And then maybe after I tell him what I want to do creatively, then he'll be like, okay, maybe you should like try this, or like he'll be like, it's like coaching almost to an extent, where it's like I'll be like, yo, like he'll make the beat and I'll be like, yo, I want the song to go in this direction. And he'd be like, okay, let me give you an example of like Jay-Z, he wrote his verse like this and make sure you space it out, or like Nas or something. But it's never like you have to do this and listen to what I say 24/7.
Yeah, and I think that helps you respect his opinion more, that you know he will trust your vision and guide you to where you want to go. But if he ever kind of says, hey, I think you should do this, you know he's saying that for a reason.
Yeah, it's warranted, and it's not coming from. I think a lot of people, even like in our younger generations, when a older guy comes and he's just trying to be like, you look at it like it's controlling, and you know what I mean? Where it's like more so it's like we're working together, and you know, he understands where I want to go, and he's just trying to help navigate, because he also, I think a lot of the places that I think I want to go musically, or even just when I look at certain like greats and like things I want to emulate, to make Reuben, at the end of the day, I think he was also in the culture when it was happening. So he's able to be like, yo, I was there when this happened, and this is what, you know, I will give you notes on, you know what I mean, that I will let you take for yourself to become Reuben.
So a lot of the music that you, like the older hip hop that you were inspired by, I assume it was a little bit of both, but like, was Ninth putting you on to a lot of that stuff, or were you kind of finding it on your own and then texting him incessantly about it?
It was definitely a lot of me finding it out on my own, and then us having like deeper conversations about him. And then maybe sometimes like he'll put me on like a deep cut record. Like if I knew about Pete Rock, he'll give me like a I&I album, which is like Pete Rock's brother who was rapping, and the album didn't really like go crazy in the like hip hop world, but he was like, yo, it's like a deep cut. You know, if you like P Rock, you're gonna like this album.
Yeah.
You know, he'll do stuff like that. But I was already searching myself, because I was a huge Kanye fan starting off. Like the first 4 or 5 Kanye albums were like my magnum opuses, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when I started coming around and I'll be like, yo, I like this album, he'll be like, hey, like if you like this album, check out this album. And then we'll go down rabbit, and then maybe he'll like spark me to go down a rabbit hole, and I'll be like, yo, you told me to find this album, but then I found this album, and then we'll have those conversations.
Yeah. What's also cool, just thinking about you saying like the P Rock's brother album, is like today everything's so accessible that, you know, something that's underground or people don't know about, like you could still find it pretty easily. It's readily available. Yeah. But back then it wasn't hard. So at the time, if you knew of something, like it wasn't just sitting on the shelves, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, really, it was like really if you know kind of situation.
Yeah, super. And like you said, like even at the time where I was finding them, it was like, oh, it's on YouTube. Like when he said it, he was like, yo, go look up the I&I album. It was a group that P Rock's brother was in. P Rock produced some of the records, and I'm like, oh, it's on YouTube right here. But I know back in that time, if you knew about it, you just knew about it. You know what I mean? And you were like you were in a group of people who knew. You know?
And you've been signed. His label's Jamla.
Yes. And
you've been signed to that for a while now, right?
Yep. I signed when I was like 16, 17.
All right. So I guess my question then is, so you met him when you were 13, and you signed when you were 16, 17?
Yeah.
But now you're 24.
24. Yep.
So what was why was it the right time for him to sign you at 16, 17, and then why was it up until now was the right time to lock in on an album together?
There's a few reasons. So I feel like me signing at 16 going on 17, I was about to turn 17. Me signing at 16, it was a maturity thing, because Knife didn't want me to become, and which I didn't want to either. I didn't want to just be a kid rapper. Like, you know, that was like, you know, oh, we put something out when I'm 13, and then like everybody just knows me as the 13. Even as I get older, they will know me as the 13-year-old. Yeah, like
you're always fighting to get out of that, like whatever people first met you as.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least from the legends that I know, even down to, we spoke of a Joey Badass earlier, we spoke of a Nas, even a few more. The youngest that a kid was able to come out and people was the least respectable about who they were was like 16. Like Joey dropped 1999 and when he was like 16, 17. So I think Ninth, if I'm not mistaken, was probably looking at it like, okay, he's old enough now where he has a little bit of experience. He can talk about something and be more mature, and people aren't going to look at it like, this 13-year-old kid is, you know what I mean? So I feel like it was that, but then also to us working together on an album, me and Knife did songs throughout the years, but we only released like 3 songs that was produced by him. Everything else was produced by like he has a production crew called the Soul Council, which is like 7 producers, and they like I would get beats from them, and I was mostly putting out records with them. But me and Knife never sat down and did one.
Was he like involved in your previous projects?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like from like an executive producer?
Yeah, from
type
an
role?
executive,
Okay.
like, oh, okay, I like this song, you should choose this song. But it was never like, yo, me and Knife doing like all these joints together. And I'm not gonna lie, and when I was younger, I really wanted that. I was like, yo, I want to do one with you. But I feel like I wasn't prepared mentally songwriting wise, because I feel like for a long time I was still trying to prove to everybody that I could rap. And I feel like if he would have gave me that opportunity like at 18, I would have just been over trying to rap. And like I feel like these songs that we did on this album is like more relatable. I'm actually telling stories where like I feel like at 18 I'd have been like, yo, I'm getting a knife on the beat, I gotta rap my face off until my face falls off. You know what I mean? And I think, he also too told me when we first started working on the album that he wanted, when I first signed, he kind of took a step back because he wanted me to get the experience that I needed to get, like from the industry, from songwriting, from just being around everything, instead of just being closed off to just Jamla. So when I first signed when I was 21 to Rock, when we did a joint venture, he kind of took a step back and kind of was watching. He would always give me advice and be like, hey, don't do this and don't do this. But he never was like front, like, oh, I'm gonna walk with you everywhere. Like he wanted me to build my own name. And I also did get a chance to build my own name. So like people know, like a lot of people some people like, yo, I just found out that you were signed to Knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I mean, if I looked into it, I'd been like, oh, it's Ninth Wonder's label, but I didn't really know how close you guys were until this project was like on its way, like once you started the rollout.
Yeah, so I think that was one of his intentions. Like he wanted people to respect me for Reuben instead of like Knife like walking me in and just being like, yo, this kid. So I think that was a big reason on why we did this album now. And I think it just maturity, and then also too like being able to like understand songwriting capabilities at this point.
Yeah, that's a wise man.
Yeah, super wise.
Yeah. And I would even say not like it's an incredible album as well, but I even hear the growth from General Admission to this. Yeah. Like with what you were saying, I could hear in General Admission still like I can rap. I can rap like which you can. But yeah, there is like a difference from like, okay, I can rap, but like making a song is a different skill set. That's kind of probably what elevates great rappers to being incredible artists.
Exactly.
Like that's where it separates it.
And I think it's funny you say that, because I think General Admission was the album where I realized like, okay, bro, you're just rapping to people. And like I went on tour with Boz after that album, and then I also I think it was the last show in New York, I did Sway in the Morning afterwards, and I did like 5 Fingers of Death. And I remember when we toured General Admission and I was performing the songs, I was seeing the difference between me and Boz's sets. Like Boz had songs where he could, do call and response, and like people could sing it back to him, and he had hooks. And I was rapping so hard my whole set, and like people are looking like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, but then they're not leaving and going and streaming the songs, you know what I mean? And I was seeing like there wasn't like a lot of number growth on the tour, but not because people didn't like me, but it was like, okay, we just saw you rap amazingly for like 15-20 minutes, but like what are we leaving with, you know what I mean? And I only had like 2 songs during that set where it was like it made like people were like, okay, this song resonates because it has a hook, it's catchy, you know what I mean? You're more songs. But I could remember I was running out of breath because I'm like, yo, I'm overly rapping.
Yeah.
And then also too, they're looking at me like, you know what I mean? So I went after that tour, and then I did the 5 Fingers of Death. 10 years ago, anybody could have did 5 Fingers of Death, and we would have been like, yo, this is like the next dude, and like it goes super viral. And I realized after I did mine, I had a good moment. People showed me love on social media, but then it was like, all right.
Yeah, everything just comes and goes at this point.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it was like, and then especially around the same time, it was like the Drake and Kendrick beef popped off like right after I did my freestyle.
Not good timing.
So it was like, you did a 5 Fingers of Death, but this beef is happening and it's creating a moment and stuff like that. So I was like, man, how am I going to connect with my listeners? And I was like, you know what? I have to really make songs, bro. I have to stop proving to people I can rap. Everybody knows I can rap. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know what, this album, that's gonna be like, when me and Knife first started, I was like, hey, this is my objective. He was like, I'm with you. I want you to make songs. Like, he was like, I think people think because he's a certain type of producer that he wants to hear a person just rap and be super lyrical all day. And if people think about it, Knife's biggest songs are like actual songs. Girl by Destiny's Child. You know what I mean? So he's like, yo, I want you to make real songs. You know what I mean? And we started working on that for this project.
Yeah, he has a wide range and different artists he's worked with. Like, he could pretty much do anything he wants to.
Yeah, and still be himself. You know what I mean? And I think that's a blessing for him.
And then I guess, so Welcome Home, I think I've heard you say too, you kind of like made it and then you went back to the drawing board and kind of like revamped it.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that? And then when you got to like this final product, like how did you know, like, okay, like this is like, now I got the right project?
So we started Welcome Home last October 2024. And some of the songs that stayed from like the first few sessions is like Issa D,
with Kelly Moonstone.
Yeah, with Kelly Moonstone.
Love Kelly. Shouts out to Kelly.
First song we recorded for Welcome Home.
Really?
Yeah. And honestly, some of the songs that were on the original Welcome Home were still very strong songs, but I still feel like I was getting out of the trying to prove I could rap still. I was slowly, like, I would have my moments, but then there were certain moments where I was like, yo, I'm on a Knife beat. I got to go hard.
Was that like, were you kind of doing that to yourself and thinking I got to get out of that mode, or was Ninth kind of pushing you to be more like that?
It was a little bit of both, because I think, so we were done. Honestly, we were done with songs. And Knife was like, okay, we're good.
And he was good. He felt good about it?
Yeah, he was like, I feel good about it. And I just was listening to him. And then I was also playing them for people. So like I would go playing with for my friends. And I noticed the songs where they would like perk up and be like, oh, okay, this is an actual song. And then I noticed the songs where they were just like, okay, like you're rapping.
But would they still tell you they fucked with it?
Yeah. But I would see their reaction. You know, like I remember, I don't think my cousin remembers this. One of my cousins named Irv, we were in the car and we were driving to Atlanta, and I was like, yo, can I play you the album? And he was like, yeah. And I'm sitting in the front, like the very front, like where I'm in the passenger with the driver, my manager at the time, and he's in the very back, because we had like a Suburban, so some of my crew was there and he was in the far back. But I would look up every time a song switched and see, like, so then there'll be certain songs where he's like, and then certain songs where he's just looking out the window and he's just like, and I noticed they were like the more rappy songs. So then I remember I called Knife after that trip and I was like, hey man, I don't think we're done. You know, and I also too was like, I felt the pressure, because I'm like, this is a Reuben Vincent and Ninth Wonder album. I don't want to work on it and it's not hitting.
Yeah, you don't want to waste the opportunity. It's like an opportunity you don't want to waste.
Yeah. So I think it was a little bit of both. And I also think it was a little bit of me like in my head, like, yo, I don't want to mess up this up. And then also too, it was certain times when we were in the studio and there would be like verses where I'll write and I'm just being super wordy, and he'll be like, yo, space your words out. You know what I mean? He's like, there's a beautiful thing in like simple, complex lyrics where it's like, you know how to like space it out, and like I got that Esther, bitch, I'm Red Fox. That's a Lil Wayne line, but the way he says it is like you following it, where it's like a dude that's just like, you know what I mean?
I think that's kind of what you said too about like what you noticed when you were performing. There's a way to make the lyrics a little more sticky. Like, you can bar me to death, but then it's like, if it's not really sticking, but like when you get the call and response, when you get the inflections and how you deliver it, like there's a lot that makes it like stick to the audience and want to hear it more.
Exactly. So I think that was a moment where I was like, okay, let's go back. So before that, October, so we worked on the album in October, November, December. We thought we were done, because I did like 20 songs and we're like, yeah, we're going to choose like 10 and then we're good. And I kept listening to the album. I'm like, I was like, yo, I'm going to come live with you, bro, and like really work on this album. And then one of the first songs where I was like, oh, it's starting to get sticky was Anything.
Good song.
Yeah. And what we did was, to test it, was Ninth put a video up on Instagram where he was like showing his machine of him making the beat. Then he walked into the room and he played the song and it went like up. Like I was seeing like a crazy amount of numbers on my Instagram. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Then I was like, okay. And the way I rapped it, and I was like, I ain't even trying to milk it. I'm going to spoil you. I adore you. Do anything for you. And I used to get in my head, like when I would be more simple, and more like sticky, like you said, I'm like, dang, I'm like compromising the super bars and stuff. When I realized like, yo, it's still effective. It's just how, like you said, it's how you say it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
I also like, kind of a side note, but it kind of goes with that. I forget what interview I watched with you and Ninth, but I like that Ninth is still like, he's an OG, but he's still very much, it's probably a factor of being a professor to college students, but he like embraces not just the younger generation, but also like the younger, like the newer methods of trying to get on. Like I forget what he said, but he said something about like you kind of need to go viral to some degree. He said that in some interview. Like he recognizes, like what you were saying, like he knows the content game and kind of like, oh, this is gonna go viral on social media and this is gonna be big for Reuben and like get hyped for the album. Like I like that he kind of is willing and knows how to work, you know, like the new way of releasing music today.
I think the thing with Ninth, a lot of people, again, because of certain sounds that he made, they think that he's just like which is understandable when you think about a lot of other legends who come from that time. They think he's like this angry, like old guy.
A lot of them are like that.
Yeah, which is very true. Like that's why I'm saying, like, I've talked to peers who never met Ninth and never knew Ninth, and then they meet Ninth and they're like, yo, he's totally different from what I thought. They thought he was just some angry old head who's in the studio like, yo, the young dudes is trash and da-da-da. And like, then you sit with him and he's like, yo, I like such and such. And like, yo, when we were working on this album, me and Ninth listened to the Playboy Carti album together. And he was like, yo, these songs I could see on the radio. This song is not necessarily my cup of tea, but I could see why young people like it. Like, he's understanding. He's not going to sit. And he says it all the time. He always says it to me. He's like, yo, I'm 50. I'm not about to be at an NBA YoungBoy concert, but I get it. You know what I mean? And he's a student of the game. As old as he, as a professor, he's also still a student. And he knows how to like utilize what's going on right now. And also too, I think another thing that's the beauty about Ninth, because he went to college in the 90s, but then he became Ninth Wonder in the early 2000s. So he's like, yo, this is what I seen that worked in the 90s when I was in college, and this is what I seen worked in the 2000s when I was a producer. And these are things that don't work now because it's a new time, but these are some of the principles that still are common to 2025.
Right, yeah. Some of the principles are still going to hold to a certain degree over time.
Yeah.
So my favorite song on the album is probably God's Children.
Ooh,
I love the Absol feature. I like the Earth, Wind, and Fire sample on that.
Fire.
It's a great song. I also like how with the collaborators, like you got a good mix, and I think it works perfectly with you and Ninth, that you got some really dope up-and-comers like Marco Plus and Kelly Moonstone, both I've had in here, friends of the program. And then some legends like Wale, Absol, Raphael Sadiq, Raheem Devon. Like, it's a good mix, and kind of like you two acting as a bridge of, you know, like the legends and the up-and-coming new artists can all kind of make one cohesive, beautiful album together. I think that's dope.
Yeah, man, that was the goal for me. Like, I think that was a big thing. Like, there was a few people that didn't get to make it on the album that were like newcomers, like Redville. Me and him talked about doing him and Mavi had talked about doing a posse cut.
He's not from North Carolina, is he? Am I making that up?
He's not, but he used to go to college in North Carolina.
Gotcha,
Redville. Mavi's from Charlotte.
Okay.
So there was a few, but I say that to say, when me and Knife was working on this, like, our agreement was like, yo, there's going to be legends that Knife are going to get. But I was like, yo, I'm going to, like, my responsibility is either putting him on or, like, getting him familiar with some of the newcomers. Like, us going to the studio, and he's like, yo, okay, I'm going to get Raphael Sadiq. I'm like, yo, have you heard Marco Plus? Or have you heard Kelly Moonstone? Or, yo, check this person out. And he'd be like, yo, they're dope. And then being the bridge of like, yo, I want to get you on this Knife album that we're working on. You know what I mean? And I felt like that was important for me, because I didn't want the album to be just a whole bunch of like legends, and then there's no newcomers that's like in my class that I'm not working with. So I felt like the only way to bridge both is like, hey, let me grab a few newcomers and you grab a few legends, and we kind of bridge that gap. But there was a bunch of like newcomers that I wanted to work on this album that we ended up maybe doing something, or it just didn't fit, or it like maybe it's like for the next one. Like, you know, I reached out to Suave,
Suave I've had in here. Actually, my interview with him drops in 10 minutes.
Oh, fire. Yeah. That's my bro. That's actually my bro. So we talked about doing one. Again, me and Mavi, we went to the studio to work on a joint. Redville and I talked about one while he was working on his album. But again, that was our thing. And then honestly, Knife was even trying to get some younger artists on here too. Like there was a song that didn't make the album that we put on the mixtape called Mama's Prayers. We're trying to get G Herbo and the Baby on it.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, he wanted to hear. He's like, and that's the thing. Like that's why I like love working with Knife, because he's always down of like getting somebody like that on a Knife beat. He's like, yo, I want to hear the Baby on a Knife beat, or like, what would G Herbo sound like on a Knife beat? And we tried, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just didn't work out with timing and stuff like that. But we were sync in like, yo, let's get some legends and let's get some newcomers as well.
I think doing that also subconsciously tells the listener like you're both equally pulling your weight and creating something together, as opposed to like what you were saying. If it was all legends, then it would kind of come across like Ninth is totally the orchestrator, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like the artist on his album. That's how it would feel. But this way, it feels very much like a joint effort. I think,
100%. And that was a big intentional thing for me. I didn't want it to come out and people be like, oh, Ninth is the only person orchestrating behind closed doors. Like Reuben is just like, it's quick to look like Reuben is just his artist and he's using all his leverage to get Reuben and stuff. And it's like, no, Knife allowed me to go do what I had to do for the last 3 years so I can have my own leverage and pull some of the newcomers in that's in my class that are making names while he's still being able to use his leverage. And that's what we did for sure.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you is you posted earlier this year something about like basically going through dark times last year and kind of, you know, using the last year in the making of this album to come out of it. You moved home, you lived in the studio, like you moved out of home, you got your own place, you're living in a nice studio for a while. And kind of like you just not being happy with where you were at in your music career. Like, I think people feel that way a lot of times with just their life in general, especially like I'm about to turn 32. Like I've been going through it for like a decade of like, what am I doing in my life? Like I'm not, you know, and you never feel like you're where you want to be. And it's almost like, what if you're not on the right track? Like it's like, that's like always like the stressful thing I feel like, am I really on the right path of what I want to be doing? So I want to talk about like kind of that experience, how you kind of grew from that. And I think you also talked about like your parents encouraged you to maybe not pursue rap anymore, maybe get a real job, and you know, just kind of like those outside influences and how you were able to like overcome that.
Man, it was super tough, bro. I feel like, you know, last year again, like around general admission, I was still like, you know, again, like I was rapping, like doing the rap records, but I was also going through a lot of changes as like a young man, but then also to like my label feeling like, you know, hey, like, you know, it's not working how we think it's gonna work. You need a hit record. And, you know, I was in LA a little bit before I came back home. And then I had like, you know, people at the label had me in the studio with just certain producers, and they're in there giving me like Lil Durk type beats and, you know, like little beats that ain't even sound like Reuben Vincent, right? And I'm sitting in the studio and I'm just super uncomfortable. And then I'm also seeing a lot of my peers just like rising up at the time. You know, some of the ones I named, honestly, like, you know, I'm seeing Mavi go crazy. I'm seeing Suave go crazy. I'm seeing this person, Marco Plus, go crazy. And I'm like, man, like, I'm happy for my brothers, but what's going on? Like, why is it not working for me? Why is it not sticking? You know what I mean? And especially, it's funny, it's funny, I was listening to Buried Alive yesterday by on the Drake album on Take Care, and Kendrick was talking about it a little bit, and I was like, I felt like that at one point, and I'm like, what's going on in my life? Am I doing the right thing? Money started to slow down, you know, my sister, and then it also hit me extra because I'm the oldest from my mom, right? So my little brother and sister on my mom's side, my brother goes off to the Navy, and then my sister goes off to college, and she's going to, you know, go get her degree to be a doctor. And I'm the only one still at the house. Like, I had did all this work and did all this rap stuff, thinking that like by this time I should be having my crib. Right. I should have this.
You'll be on by XYZ date.
Yeah, and by the time, like, because even I remember when I was in high school, and I remember telling my sister like, yo, by the time you go to college, I have enough money to buy you a car. And then coming to it, and then it's like, give me a couple more years. You know what I mean? And I remember when they both left and it was just me at the house, it was like, whoa, you know. And then again, like, I'm seeing my peers get, you know, like, just being transparent, like, you know, Mavi and me are super close, right? And me and him had this talk, but I remember at one point, like, I was seeing him just go up, and, you know, he was like, yo, I'm about to, you know, cop this whip or get this property. And I'm just like, man, like, you know, when is it going to happen for me? You know what I mean? And I remember that like money was slowing up, things was happening, and my parents is in my ear like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I'm like, man, like what's, when is it going to necessarily break? And it just was really depressing, bro. Like it was super depressing. Like hearing your mom say, man, you're going to have to go get a job, especially because I started so young. Like I started at 16, 17 and being around ninth. And, it's just like, man, like I had no doubt in my mind by the time I was 24, I was going to be like,
out of here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I had no doubt in my mind. So when it didn't happen like that, it was like a switch in my mind, and it humbled me to the point where I was like, man, I really have to do some recalibration. And I also, too, I feel like I was chasing the wrong things because my peers were going up quicker than me. And the one thing I think I didn't realize is how authentic their rises were. Like the people I just named, they were being themselves while they were rising. And I feel like I was being myself, but also I was hearing a lot of other outside noises like the label, my parents. So it's like now I'm pivoting from being myself to like, okay, let me try this and see if it works. Let me try this and see if it works. And just trying to figure what sticks. And it just didn't feel authentic to me. So I had to really sit and recalibrate with myself. And then I called Ninth one day. I was scared to have this conversation with him, but I was like, yo, this is the only person I'd be able to have a conversation with. So I called him. Honestly, just being transparent, the first thing before I called him, I tried to hit like the panic button, and I was like, hey, Ninth, I quit. Like, I'm going to stop rapping. Like, I'm going to leave Jamla and just go figure it out. Like, I'll go get a job and maybe do it on my own. He was like, what? Like, it was so random. It was so sudden. I was like, yo, man, I'm cool. Like, I'm good. I'm just going to take a step back and like go figure it out. I wanted to be like, it was like a self-sabotaging thing.
I was like, it also sounds like a cry for help a little bit for Ninth. Like, it's kind of like, you want him to.
To help. Yeah. So it was like, basically I was, self-sabotaging because it wasn't even just that. It was like, you know what, man, I don't want to be on rock no more. Like, I was just over it. And he was like, yo, man, I kind of let you go figure it out on your own because I wanted you to have your own leverage. I wanted you to learn. He was like, but come back home, man. Like, he was like, and it wasn't even him telling me to come work on the album with him. It was just like, yo, come be in the studio, come, and then after he said we had that conversation, that it hit me, like, it was like a light bulb. I just texted him the next morning. I was like, yo, what if we just do an album together? And he was like, yeah, let's, like, I think it's time. And then we end up doing the album. But before then, bro, like, it was super hard. And even during the beginning of the process of the album, like, I'm not making no money really. I'm sleeping in the studio. You know what I mean? My parents is like, what's going on? Like, you're chasing this dream and you're not really seeing no return from it. You should just come back home and go get a job.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with family and like friends sometimes because it's like, I mean, I even noticed it to some degree, I'm sure you do too, where if people don't really get it, like they don't really get what you're doing and they might not see the small wins. Like, you might see some things where it might be positive momentum for yourself, but like your parents aren't going to really notice that. And they just look at bigger picture, like, my son isn't financially secure, it's not going well, you need to get a job. Like, they just kind of chalk it up very simply like that way.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So, and it's hard because I'm also one of the first out of my family to chase his dream. Like, I got little cousins chasing the music dream now, but I was the first one to like really take that leap. Everybody else went to school or got a real job. So like for me to be the entrepreneur one, it's like, we're not really seeing where it's going. So, it was honestly, bro, I was super depressed, bro. Like, I was super in this, like, in a dark space. I was like, again, like self talking myself out of a lot of things. Like, maybe I should just go back to school. Maybe I should quit. And I had to like silence the noise to get to where I'm at now.
Well, seems like you came out on the other side feeling a little more confident in what you're doing.
Definitely. Still got a lot of more work to do. It's not like right now, like, the album's only been out for a week. It's not like it's like, oh yeah, the money's up and we're just but I see the switch, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And even in the last couple months, like, I wasn't able to get my own crib last year, you know what I mean? And to be able to do that this summer and, be able to, like, pay my rent on time, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, cool. And now it's like, okay, I'm moving in a step forward. And it's just like, okay, now the album's out. Hopefully I get a good response enough to where it just takes me to another leap and be able to continue to do this and not have to, go back to where I was. But, this game is so fickle, bro. You know what I mean? They love you one day, then they hate you another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like today's day and age, everything comes and goes so quick. So it's such a challenge to like maintain I don't know if relevancy is the right word, but just like staying on top of people's minds because you're competing with so much, not just music but content in general. It's like there's a lot happening.
It's a lot. So I just hope and I pray, and I'm confident about it, but I pray that this album is a step forward in building a world where I'm able to take care of myself and have my family be like, okay, we're more comfortable in what Reuben's doing and we're not worried about him and stuff like that. So
right. Well, this is a great place to jumpstart that because the album is incredible and I've seen nothing but universal praise for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, God's Children I love. Probably Dre and Sydney is my second favorite.
Fire.
I like Cup of Love too.
Yeah, I love that song.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think what other ones like really sad. Those are probably like my top 3 if I had to name some off the top of my head. But it's an incredible album. Everyone should listen to it if they haven't. I'm sure a lot of people have already.
Yeah.
What is the plan now going forward? Like, what's next for Reuben Vincent?
We're trying to. The next plan is tour. Me and Knife are gonna do some tour dates. Probably top of next year. And then I'm just, again, I think the next plan for me, what Reuben Vincent wants to do is just build the world to where it's this album is like the catapult for what else next I do. And like, I'm already working on the next one. I think, me doing the skits and like the trailers, like I wanted to show people that I can act, you know what I mean? And I've never had like an actor trainer or nothing. That's just off of the wheel. So imagine when I finally get some training, you know what I mean? So call me.
I can see you being an actor.
Yeah, I would love to. You know what I mean? So I think, for me, I just hope that I'm able to stay in the game long enough to build a name for myself where I don't have to be like, man, do I have to get a job? Do I have to whoop-de-whoop? Like, it's like, no, you've built a core following, bro. I see myself being one of the greatest in my generation, right? But for me, if I can go home and pay my bills, take care of my family, and have a core following who know when I drop, they're going to love what I do, I'll be satisfied with that. Everything else is just a cherry on top. So,
Well, I think you've built a great foundation. You think you already have a good catalog. This is an incredible album, and I think it's only up from here. And I think there's a lot of momentum right now, so I'm sure you're just going to ride it.
Yes,
Keep
sir.
going.
Got to.
Where can people follow you? Last thing.
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the same thing. It's Reuben Vincent, and it's spelled REUBENVINCENT. You got to put the underscore when you do Twitter and TikTok because somebody got my handle. And it's funny because the person who has my handle on Twitter, their bio says the 13th bloodline of Illuminati, and I'm just like, this doesn't look good for me. I'm signed to rock. Not me. So underscore is me. The one without the underscore is not me. That guy has not been on Twitter since 2010, and I was a 9-year-old kid at that time. So please don't think that's me at all. But yeah, follow me there. Follow me on Instagram and stream Welcome Home.
Stream Welcome Home. I appreciate you being here, and yeah, go check out the album. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bro.
That was fire.